Captain Lee Hanna stood in the docking bay of Harmony's Edge space station and watched the alien security team prepare their scanning equipment. The massive station floated in neutral space between 3 different star systems, and today, it would host the most important meeting in human history. Earth's first official contact with the Galactic Council was about to begin, and Hanna carried the hopes of her entire species on her shoulders. The docking bay stretched out like a vast metal cathedral, with ships from dozens of different worlds, parked in neat rows. Hanna had seen pictures of alien vessels before, but nothing prepared her for the reality of seeing them in person. Some looked like twisted metal flowers, while others resembled giant insects made of polished stone. Her own ship, the Soul's Pride, looked almost boring next to these exotic craft, with its simple white hull and Blue Earth Federation markings. Park Jiho. Her second-in-command shifted nervously beside her and adjusted his formal uniform for the 10th time in as many minutes. The young officer had been quiet during their entire journey to the station, and Hanna could see the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. This was not just another diplomatic mission, and everyone knew it. One wrong move could mean war between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. The security chief approached them with measured steps that made no sound on the metal floor. Vextar stood 3 meters tall and looked like someone had carved a person from living crystal. Light bent and twisted through its translucent body, creating rainbow patterns that hurt to look at directly. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, but Hanna knew better than to be fooled by the pleasant sound. Vextar was the most dangerous being on the station, and its job was to make sure no weapons entered the diplomatic area. Captain Lee Hanna of Earth, Vextar said, and the universal translator made the words sound formal and cold. You will submit to standard security protocols before entering the diplomatic sector. Hanna nodded and stepped forward to the scanning platform. She had been through security checks before, but never anything like this. The alien equipment hummed with power, and she could feel strange energy washing over her body like warm water. Banks of screens showed readouts in languages she could not understand, while other devices projected holographic displays of her internal organs. Initial scan complete, announced a smaller alien that looked like a walking tree branch. No conventional weapons detected. Vextar moved closer to examine the readouts, and Hanna noticed the crystal being's body had shifted to a darker shade of blue. In her briefing, she had learned that color changes in Vextar's species indicated emotional states, but she could not remember what blue meant. There is an anomaly, Vextar said after studying the displays for several long minutes. Our sensors detect an unauthorized biological signature aboard your vessel. Park Jiho stepped forward with his hands raised in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture. Sir, there must be some mistake, he said. We followed all protocols and submitted complete manifests of everything aboard our ship. The security chief turned its attention to the young officer, and its body shifted to an even darker shade of blue. Your manifest lists 3 human crew members, Vextar said, but our sensors detect a 4th life form with highly unusual characteristics. Hanna felt her stomach drop as she realized what the aliens had found. She had hoped the scanners would not be sensitive enough to detect Mochi, but clearly she had underestimated galactic technology. The orange tabby cat was sleeping in her quarters right now, and had no idea it was about to cause an international incident. The 4th signature shows elevated heart rate, rapid reflexes, and what appears to be retractable claws. Vextar continued as more aliens gathered around the scanning equipment. Most concerning are the neural patterns which match those of an apex predator. The tree-like alien manipulated holographic controls, and a 3-dimensional image appeared in the air above them. Hanna could see the outline of her ship with 3 human shapes clearly visible, and a 4th smaller figure that pulsed with red warning indicators. To the aliens, it must look like she was hiding some kind of dangerous creature. Captain Vextar said, and its voice had taken on a harder edge. You will explain this deception immediately. Hanna took a deep breath and tried to think of how to explain the situation without making things worse. Earth's entire future with the Galactic Council could depend on how she handled the next few minutes. She had practiced for dozens of different scenarios during the long journey to the station, but none of her training had prepared her for this. There is no deception, she said carefully. What your scanners have detected is my companion animal. The phrase did not translate well, and she could see confusion rippling through the crowd of alien observers. Several species began chattering in their native languages while others activated recording devices to capture every word of the conversation. Companion animal, repeated Vextar. This term is not familiar to us. Park Ji-ho moved closer to his captain, and she could see sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool temperature of the docking bay. The young officer knew as well as she did that they were walking through a minefield of cultural misunderstandings. On Earth, many humans share their homes with other species. Hana explained. These animals live with us and we care for them in exchange for companionship. The explanation seemed to make the situation worse instead of better. The aliens began making sounds that the translator could not interpret, and several species backed away from the humans as if they had just declared themselves to be cannibals. You keep predators in your living spaces, Vextar said, and its body had turned almost black now willingly. Well, yes, Hana said, but they are not dangerous to us. This statement caused what could only be described as an uproar among the alien observers. The tree-like being began waving its branches frantically, while a slug-like creature left a trail of nervous slime across the floor as it retreated to what it considered a safe distance. Captain, Vextar said, and Hana noticed that the security chief's hands were now resting on what appeared to be weapon controls. Our sensors indicate that this creature possesses all the characteristics of a highly efficient killing machine. It really is harmless, Hana insisted, but she could see that her words were having no effect. Its name is Mochi and it spends most of its time sleeping. The name seemed to confuse the translator, which rendered it as something like soft death bringer in several alien languages. This did not help the situation at all, and Hana realized she was only digging herself deeper into trouble. We must inspect this creature immediately, Vextar declared. The safety of all delegates depends on understanding the nature of this threat. Hana looked at Park Ji-ho, who gave her a helpless shrug. They were trapped in a situation that no amount of diplomatic training could have prepared them for. Earth's first contact with alien civilization was about to be derailed by a house cat. Very well, Hana said, but I should warn you that sudden movements and loud noises can startle companion animals. Noted, Vextar replied. We will take all necessary precautions when dealing with your biological weapon, the security chief began, issuing orders in its native language, and within minutes a full tactical team had assembled. Hana watched in amazement as heavily armed aliens prepared to face what they clearly considered to be one of the most dangerous creatures they had ever encountered. As they made their way toward the Soul's Pride, Hana could not help but wonder what Mochi would make of all this attention. The lazy orange cat had never hurt anyone in its entire life, but somehow it had managed to terrify the most advanced security force in the galaxy. The future of human-alien relations was about to depend on how well a house cat could behave under pressure. The tactical team moved through the corridors of the Soul's Pride like they were entering a combat zone. Vexatar had equipped each member with energy shields and weapons designed to handle dangerous wildlife from across the galaxy. Captain Lee, Hana walked in the middle of the formation and tried not to think about how ridiculous the situation had become. The ship's corridors seemed smaller with so many aliens crowding into them. A mantis-like creature called Zikthara scanned every corner with compound eyes, while a floating jellyfish being named Flumerex tested the air for chemical traces. Behind them came Dr. Kethrin, whose 4 arms manipulated scanner devices that beeped and chirped with each step. The predator's scent trail is strongest near the captain's quarters, reported Zikthara in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. It appears to patrol this area regularly. Park Ji-ho caught Hana's eye, and she could see him fighting not to smile. Mochi did indeed patrol the corridors, but only because the cat liked to rub against the walls and leave its scent on everything. The alien was technically correct, but completely wrong about the reasons. Elevated stress hormones detected in the air, announced Flumerex as its tentacles twitched nervously. The creature is aware of our presence. Hana knew that Mochi was probably just annoyed at being woken up from its afternoon nap. The cat kept very regular sleeping schedules and did not appreciate interruptions. She had learned this the hard way during their first week together, when she tried to move the sleeping cat from her favorite chair. The tactical team stopped outside Hana's quarters and began setting up what looked like a small command post. Vexitar deployed shield generators while other aliens activated scanning equipment that filled the corridor with humming sounds and flashing lights. Biological readings indicate the predator is in an active hunting state, Dr. Catherine announced as data flowed across holographic displays. Heart rate is elevated, and neural activity suggests heightened awareness. What the scanner was actually detecting was Mochi's curiosity about the strange noises coming from outside. The cat had probably moved to the door to investigate, which would register as purposeful movement on the alien sensors. Every innocent action was being interpreted as predatory behavior. "Captain," Vexitar said, and its crystalline body had shifted to deep purple. "You will open the door slowly and be prepared to retreat quickly if the creature attacks." Hana placed her palm on the door scanner and felt the lock disengage with a soft click. The aliens raised their weapons and activated energy shields as the door slid open with its usual mechanical hiss. Everyone held their breath as they peered into the darkened room beyond. For a moment, nothing happened, and Hana wondered if Mochi had gone back to sleep. Then a small orange shape appeared in the doorway and the entire tactical team froze like they had encountered a dragon. Mochi sat in the entrance and looked up at the assembled aliens with bright green eyes. The cat's ears were forward and alert, while its tail swished back and forth with mild interest. To human eyes, it was clearly a friendly and curious animal, but the alien scanners were going crazy with warnings. "Threat assessment critical," whispered Zikthara as its mandibles clicked rapidly. "The predator is evaluating us for attack vectors." Mochi tilted its head to one side and made a small chirping sound that the universal translator rendered as "hunting." Call confirmed across all the alien communication devices. The cat was simply greeting the strangers in its territory, but the aliens interpreted it as something far more sinister. Dr. Catherine stepped forward with scanning equipment held in 3 of its 4 hands. The xenobiologist had studied predatory species from dozens of worlds but had never encountered anything quite like the small Earth creature sitting before them. Initial visual analysis confirms apex predator classification. Catherine reported, forward-facing eyes for tracking prey, retractable claws for grasping and killing, silent movement capabilities for ambush hunting. Hana wanted to explain that cats had evolved as hunters, but that Mochi caught nothing more dangerous than toy mice and the occasional bug. However, she realized that this information would probably not reassure the aliens, who were clearly terrified of Earth's domestic animals. Mochi stood up and stretched in the way that cats do after sleeping. The movement caused every alien weapon to track toward the small animal as its claws extended briefly before retracting. Several members of the tactical team stepped backward, while Flumerex released what appeared to be defensive chemicals into the air. "Threat display confirmed," announced Vextar. "The creature is demonstrating its natural weapons." The cat finished stretching and began walking toward the group of aliens. Its movement was fluid and silent, which set off even more alarms on the scanning equipment. Mochi was simply investigating the visitors, but every step looked purposeful and predatory to the increasingly nervous security team. "It approaches with perfect stealth capabilities," whispered Zikithara. "This species must be responsible for the extinction of countless prey animals on Earth." Park Jiho coughed slightly to cover what might have been a laugh. Mochi had once spent an entire afternoon stalking a piece of string only to be startled by its own reflection in a mirror. The cat was about as dangerous as a stuffed animal, but these advanced aliens saw it as a perfect killing machine. Mochi reached the edge of the group and sat down again. The cat looked up at Dr. Catherine with what appeared to be friendly interest and made another chirping sound. This time the translator rendered it as prey selection vocalization, which caused several aliens to raise their weapons. "Wait," said Hana quickly, "it wants to be petted." This phrase translated poorly and came out as something like demand submission ritual in most alien languages. The effect was immediate and dramatic as several species began backing away from what they perceived as an aggressive territorial display. Mochi seemed puzzled by the reaction and decided to demonstrate proper greeting behavior by rubbing against Dr. Catherine's leg. The xenobiologist stood perfectly still as the small predator marked its territory with scent glands that the alien's equipment could detect, but not understand. "Chemical warfare confirmed," reported Catherine in a shaky voice. "The creature is attempting to claim dominance through pheromone deployment." The cat finished marking the alien as acceptable and sat down to begin grooming itself. This normal feline behavior looked even more ominous to the observers as Mochi licked its paw and used it to clean behind its ears. "Weapon maintenance ritual," whispered Vextar. "It cleans its killing tools while remaining alert for additional threats." Mochi paused in its grooming and looked directly at the security chief. The cat's green eyes reflected the light from the alien equipment, and for a moment it did look rather intimidating. Then Mochi opened its mouth and yawned widely, displaying sharp white teeth that made several aliens take another step backward. "Threat. Display escalating," announced multiple scanners at once. The predator shows its primary weapons while maintaining eye contact. Hana realized that every innocent action was being misinterpreted, and that trying to explain would probably make things worse. The aliens had decided that Mochi was dangerous, and nothing she said would change their minds about Earth's most popular pet. The cat finished yawning and began to purr. The deep rumbling sound filled the corridor and caused immediate panic among several species. Flumerex released more defensive chemicals while Zeekthara's compound eyes dilated with what appeared to be terror. "Unknown sonic attack detected," Catherine reported as scanning equipment registered the cat's purring across multiple frequencies. The creature generates subsonic vibrations that could interfere with nervous systems. Mochi seemed pleased with all the attention and decided to show further friendliness by rolling over and exposing its belly. This submissive gesture in cat language looked like preparation for combat to the aliens who saw the exposed claws and powerful leg muscles. "Final attack position confirmed," Vextar announced. "The predator prepares to strike with all four limbs simultaneously." The security chief raised its weapon and prepared to defend the diplomatic mission from Earth's most dangerous export. Captain Lee Hana realized that first contact was about to be permanently damaged by a house cat that only wanted someone to rub its belly. In that moment, she understood that humans and aliens saw the universe in completely different ways, and that bridging that gap would be much more difficult than anyone had imagined. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within an hour of the security incident aboard the Soul's Pride. Captain Lee Hana found herself standing in the center of a vast circular chamber surrounded by representatives from 47 different species. The architecture was designed to be neutral and welcoming, but today the atmosphere felt more like a trial than a diplomatic meeting. Ambassador Kim Doyen had been rushed from Earth's embassy on the other side of the station. The senior diplomat was sweating despite his years of experience with interspecies relations. He had handled trade disputes and territorial disagreements, but nothing had prepared him for explaining why humans kept predators in their homes. High Chancellor Mordex presided over the session from an elevated platform in the center of the chamber. The ancient being resembled a tree that had learned to walk, and its bark-like skin showed the scars of countless diplomatic battles. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of millennia and the authority to make decisions that affected entire civilizations. "We are gathered to address a matter of urgent security concern," Mordex announced, and the universal translators carried its words to every corner of the chamber. "The human delegation has brought an undeclared biological weapon to our neutral station." Hana stepped forward and tried to project confidence she did not feel. The eyes of the galaxy were upon her, and Earth's future hung in the balance. One wrong word could brand humanity as a threat to galactic peace. "Honored Chancellor," she began, "what you call a weapon is what we call a companion animal." The phrase caused immediate confusion as translators struggled to render the concept into languages that had no equivalent terms. Several delegates began chattering among themselves while others activated recording devices to capture every detail of this unprecedented situation. Dr. Yoon Minji had been brought in as humanity's expert on animal behavior and interspecies relationships. The xenobiologist stood beside the human delegation with a portable holographic projector that contained detailed information about Earth's domestic animals. "Perhaps a demonstration would help," Dr. Yoon suggested. "I have prepared educational Materials about human-animal relationships. The hologram flickered to life and showed images of cats throughout human history. Ancient Egyptian tomb paintings depicted cats as sacred guardians, while medieval manuscripts showed them hunting rats in monasteries. Modern photographs revealed cats sleeping in human beds and playing with children. For over 9,000 years, Dr. Yoon explained, humans and cats have lived together in mutual benefit arrangements. The phrase mutual benefit translated as military alliance in several alien languages, which caused fresh concern among the delegates. A crystalline being from the Epsilon sector began flashing warning colors, while a gas-based entity from the nebula colonies released what appeared to be distress pheromones. You forge military alliances with apex predators, stated Delegate Vexthon, whose species resembled walking coral formations. For what purpose do you need such dangerous allies? Hana realized that the concept of keeping animals for emotional companionship was completely foreign to most galactic species. These beings had evolved along different paths and had never experienced the unique bond between humans and their pets. We do not use them for military purposes, Hana explained. Cats provide companionship, emotional support, and pest control services. The term pest control translated as selective elimination of enemy species, which made the situation significantly worse. Several delegates began backing away from the human section, while others activated personal defense shields. High Chancellor Mordex raised a gnarled appendage for silence, and the chamber gradually quieted. The ancient being studied the humans with eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. You claim these predators serve as emotional companions, Mordex said. Explain how dangerous creatures provide psychological benefits. Dr. Yoon activated another holographic display that showed brain scans of humans interacting with cats. The images revealed changes in neurochemistry and stress hormone levels that occurred during positive human-animal interactions. Physical contact with cats triggers the release of chemicals that reduce anxiety and promote feelings of well-being, she explained. The vibrations they produce through purring have measurable therapeutic effects. This information seemed to disturb the aliens even more than the previous revelations. A slug-like delegate from the outer rim systems began secreting what appeared to be defensive slime, while several insectoid species clicked their mandibles in distress. The predators use biochemical manipulation, whispered Delegate Kythera, whose species resembled metallic spiders. They alter human brain chemistry to ensure continued cooperation. Park Jiho stepped forward and tried to clarify the situation. The relationship benefits both species, he said. Humans provide food, shelter, and medical care, while cats provide companionship and emotional support. The concept of voluntarily caring for another species without expectation of military service was apparently unprecedented in galactic history. Several delegates began consulting their databases while others initiated emergency communications with their homeworlds. You feed and shelter apex predators, stated Mordex, without requiring them to serve as warriors or guards. That is correct, Hana confirmed. Many humans consider their companion animals to be members of their families. This statement caused what could only be described as chaos in the council chamber. The idea of adopting predators as family members struck most species as evidence of either extreme courage or complete insanity. Ambassador Kim Do-yeon stepped forward and tried to provide additional context. Companion animals are common throughout human civilization, he said. Many households include cats, dogs, birds, and other species living together peacefully. The mention of additional predator species caused fresh alarm among the delegates. Dr. Yoon quickly activated holographic displays, showing various domestic animals, but each new image seemed to make the situation worse. Canines, she explained as images of dogs appeared in the air above them, are descended from pack hunters, but have been domesticated for approximately 15,000 years. The wolf ancestry of domestic dogs registered immediately on every predator detection system in the chamber. Several delegates activated emergency protocols while others began what appeared to be evacuation procedures. You domesticated pack hunters, Mordex said, and its voice carried a note of what might have been admiration or horror. Apex predators that coordinate group attacks. They are very loyal, Hana said weakly, and excellent with children. The image of predatory pack animals interacting with human offspring seemed to break something in the collective alien mind. Half the chamber erupted in panicked communications while the other half sat in stunned silence. Birds of prey. Dr. Yoon continued desperately, specifically raptors with talons designed for killing. The holographic display showed eagles perched on human arms and falcons returning to their handlers after successful hunts. The sight of humans voluntarily handling creatures with razor-sharp talons and powerful beaks caused several species to begin evacuation procedures. You alliance yourselves with aerial attack specialists, stated Delegate Zephrun, whose own species resembled flying rays, creatures capable of striking from above without warning. Hana looked around the chamber and realized that every attempt to explain human-animal relationships was making humanity seem more dangerous rather than less. The aliens were not seeing beloved pets but rather evidence that humans were apex predators themselves. Perhaps, she said carefully, this explains why humans have been successful on Earth despite being physically inferior to many other species. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. If humans could form alliances with apex predators across multiple species, then what did that say about humanity itself? High Chancellor Mordex leaned forward on its platform and studied the human delegation with new interest. You do not consider yourselves to be the dominant predator on your world, it said, yet you have formed alliances with those that are. The ancient being paused and seemed to consider something that had not occurred to it before. When it spoke, again its voice carried a note of dawning comprehension that sent chills through the assembled delegates. Perhaps the question is not whether your companion animals are dangerous, Mordex said slowly, but rather what manner of species successfully befriends such creatures. The emergency session was interrupted by urgent communications from station security. Mochi had somehow escaped from the containment area aboard the Soul's Pride and was now loose somewhere in the civilian sections of Harmony's Edge. What followed could only be described as the galaxy's first encounter with a house cat on the prowl. Station Commander Thexia stood in the central control room surrounded by monitors that tracked the small orange predator as it moved through the station's corridors. The commander belonged to a species that resembled walking crystals, and its body flickered between different colors as stress levels increased throughout the facility. All civilian areas are under lockdown, Thexia announced over the station-wide communication system. An extremely dangerous Earth predator is loose in sectors 7 through 12. Security Officer Bae Seung-ho of the human delegation tried not to laugh as he monitored the situation from his position in the control room. On the screens he could see Mochi padding silently through corridors that had been hastily evacuated by terrified alien civilians. The cat seemed puzzled by the empty hallways and kept stopping to sniff at interesting scents left behind by dozens of different species. To Mochi, this was simply a new territory to explore, but the station's sensors registered each movement as a calculated hunting pattern. Target is using advanced stealth capabilities, reported a security technician whose species resembled metallic trees. Movement generates minimal sound and heat signature remains low. What the sensors detected as stealth technology was actually just normal cat behavior. Mochi had evolved from ancestors who needed to move silently while hunting, and millions of years of evolution had perfected these abilities. The cat was not trying to be stealthy, but simply could not help moving like a natural predator. In the diplomatic chamber, the council members watched the unfolding situation on emergency monitors. Several delegates had activated personal defense systems, while others appeared to be preparing evacuation pods. The sight of a small Earth animal terrorizing an advanced space station was both fascinating and deeply disturbing. Observe how it investigates each sector systematically, pointed out Dr. Catherine, who was analyzing the cat's movement patterns. This suggests intelligence and tactical planning. Mochi had discovered the station's arboretum and was currently exploring the artificial garden that provided fresh air and psychological benefits for long-term residents. The cat found the variety of plants and smells fascinating and began what appeared to be a thorough investigation of every corner. Predator is conducting reconnaissance of the agricultural sector, reported the security team. Possible preparation for extended siege tactics. The orange tabby had actually found a patch of something that resembled catnip and was rolling around in it with obvious pleasure. The plant was an exotic specimen from the Centauri colonies and was not supposed to have any psychoactive effects on Earth animals. Apparently, no one had tested this assumption. Target is exhibiting unpredictable behavior after contact with unknown botanical specimens. Thexia announced, chemical analysis suggests possible narcotic interaction. Captain Lee Hana watched the monitors with growing concern. Mochi under the influence of alien catnip was likely to be even more unpredictable than usual. She had seen what happened when the cat encountered regular catnip, and the results were always entertaining, but chaotic. The drugged cat wandered out of the arboretum and into the station's main commercial district. The shops and restaurants had been evacuated, but their automatic systems were still running. Mochi discovered that several establishments served what appeared to be small, moving creatures as delicacies for various alien species. Predator has located food storage facilities, announced the security team. Possible attempt to establish territorial control over resources. Mochi had found the tank containing Altarian swimming mice that served as appetizers at an upscale restaurant. The tiny creatures resembled earthfish, but moved through oxygenated water with quick darting motions that triggered every hunting instinct the cat possessed. The next few minutes provided the Galactic Council with a demonstration of exactly why Earth cats were considered apex predators. Mochi's paws moved with lightning speed as the cat tried to catch the swimming mice through the glass of their tank. The display of reaction time and coordination was impressive even by galactic standards. Incredible reflexes confirmed, Dr. Keithran reported with something approaching awe. The creature can track multiple fast-moving targets simultaneously while calculating intercept vectors. The cat's unsuccessful attempts to catch the swimming mice resulted in several knocked-over displays and a minor mess in the restaurant. To alien observers, this looked like calculated destruction designed to flush out hidden prey animals. Target employs area denial tactics, reported the security team, systematically destroying cover that might conceal enemy forces. Mochi eventually grew bored with the swimming mice and wandered into the station's main thoroughfare. The wide corridor normally bustled with activity from hundreds of different species, but now stood empty except for a few security drones maintaining surveillance from what their operators hoped was a safe distance. The cat discovered that the polished floor provided excellent sliding opportunities and spent several minutes running and sliding across the smooth surface. This normal, playful behavior looked like advanced mobility testing to the nervous observers. Predator evaluates terrain for optimal movement patterns, announced Thexia. Demonstrates ability to use environmental features for tactical advantage. The fun was interrupted when Mochi noticed the security drones hovering nearby. The small, flying devices immediately registered as potential prey, and the cat's pupils dilated as hunting instincts engaged. What followed was a masterclass in feline aerial combat techniques. Mochi leaped impossibly high and swiped at the nearest drone. With claws extended, the security device barely escaped destruction, and its operators quickly pulled all surveillance units back to safer distances. The cat landed gracefully and immediately began stalking the retreating drones. Aerial combat capabilities confirmed, reported the security team. Target can engage flying opponents with precision strikes. The demonstration continued as Mochi chased shadows, explored ventilation grates, and investigated every interesting smell throughout the commercial district. Each normal cat behavior was interpreted as evidence of advanced predatory capabilities that impressed and terrified the alien observers. High Chancellor Mordex watched the displays with growing fascination. The ancient being had witnessed countless species throughout its long life but had never seen anything quite like the small Earth predator that was currently terrorizing one of the galaxy's most advanced facilities. This creature operates alone, Mordex observed, yet shows no fear of unfamiliar territory or unknown threats. Ambassador Kim Doyun realized that every minute Mochi remained loose was making humanity seem more dangerous in alien eyes. The cat was simply being a cat. But to species that had never encountered such efficient predators, it looked like a demonstration of Earth's military capabilities. The situation reached its climax when Mochi discovered the station's zero-gravity recreation area. The cat had never experienced weightlessness before but adapted instantly to the new environment. Within minutes, Mochi was performing aerial maneuvers that would have impressed professional pilots. Target demonstrates three-dimensional combat capabilities, announced the security team. Appears to be naturally adapted for zero-gravity warfare. Captain Hana watched Mochi perform graceful loops and spins in the weightless chamber and realized that first contact was being completely overshadowed by her pet's athletic abilities. The aliens were not seeing a playful house cat, but rather proof that Earth produced the galaxy's most efficient killing machines. The demonstration ended when Mochi spotted High Chancellor Mordex through the observation window of the diplomatic chamber. The ancient tree-like being had been watching the cat's performance with obvious interest, and Mochi seemed to recognize a potential new friend. The cat pressed against the window and began the slow blink that felines use to show trust and affection. To human eyes, it was clearly a friendly gesture, but the aliens interpreted it as target acquisition behavior from a predator that had selected its next victim. "Predator has identified priority target," whispered the security team. "Appears to be focusing on the council leadership." The diplomatic chamber fell into absolute silence as Mochi somehow managed to find its way inside, despite all the security measures. The orange tabby cat walked calmly through the space between terrified alien delegates and approached the central platform where High Chancellor Mordex presided over the emergency session. Captain Lee Hana held her breath as she watched her pet cat casually stroll past beings who controlled the fate of entire star systems. Security forces had weapons trained on the small animal, but no one dared to fire with so many important delegates nearby. The tension in the chamber was so thick it could have been cut with a knife. Mochi reached the base of the platform and looked up at the ancient tree-like being who served as the council's leader. The cat tilted its head to one side and made a small questioning sound that the universal translators rendered as various forms of greeting across dozens of languages. "The predator communicates with the alpha," whispered Dr. Catherine from behind a hastily erected energy shield, possible attempt at establishing dominance hierarchy. High Chancellor Mordex leaned down from its elevated position to get a better look at the small Earth creature. The ancient being had survived countless diplomatic crises and military conflicts, but had never encountered anything quite like the orange tabby that was currently examining its bark-like exterior with obvious curiosity. Mochi seemed to approve of what it saw and began the feline greeting ritual by rubbing against the base of the platform. The cat's scent glands left chemical markers that registered immediately on every sensor in the chamber and caused fresh alarm among the already nervous delegates. "Chemical warfare deployment confirmed," announced the security systems. "Predator marks territory to establish ownership claims." Dr. Oh Sung-jin, the human psychologist who had been rushed to the station, stepped forward carefully. He had spent years studying the bonds between humans and animals, and recognized that this moment could determine the future of human-alien relations. "Honored delegates," he said in as calm a voice as he could manage, "you are witnessing a demonstration of Earth's most remarkable evolutionary development." The chamber remained silent except for the soft sound of Mochi purring, as the cat continued to investigate the interesting smells around the platform. Several aliens flinched at the subsonic vibrations, but High Chancellor Mordex seemed oddly fascinated by the rhythmic sound. "What you call predatory behavior," Dr. O continued, "we call pack bonding." The term required extensive explanation through the universal translators and caused considerable confusion among species who had never encountered the concept. Pack bonding implied social cooperation, but the evidence suggested that humans bonded with creatures specifically designed to hunt and kill. "Humans possess an unusual psychological trait," Dr. O explained. "We form emotional attachments to other species regardless of their potential danger to us." Ambassador Kim Do-yoon activated a holographic display that showed various examples of human-animal relationships throughout history. Images appeared of humans working alongside horses, caring for injured wildlife, and even befriending predators that could easily kill them. We bond with wolves, bears, birds of prey, and even reptiles. Kim said, species that other civilizations would consider natural enemies become our closest companions. The implications of this information began to sink in among the assembled delegates. If humans routinely formed emotional bonds with apex predators, then what did that suggest about human psychology and capabilities? You empathize with creatures designed to hunt you, stated Delegate Vexthon. This suggests either remarkable courage or complete lack of survival instincts. Mochi had grown tired of investigating the platform and decided that High Chancellor Mordex looked like an interesting climbing opportunity. The cat began scaling the ancient being's trunk-like leg with the casual confidence of an animal that had never met a surface it could not climb. Predator initiates direct physical contact with leadership target, announced the security systems. Possible assassination attempt in progress. High Chancellor Mordex remained perfectly still as the small earth animal climbed up its body and settled comfortably on what might have been considered a shoulder if tree beings had such things. The ancient leader found itself supporting a purring orange cat that seemed completely relaxed despite being surrounded by 47 different alien species. It is not afraid, Mordex observed with something approaching wonder. Despite being outnumbered and in unfamiliar territory, this creature shows no signs of stress or aggression. Dr. O recognized the significance of the moment and moved closer to provide additional context. Cats demonstrate trust through physical contact, he explained. By climbing on you, this animal is showing that it considers you to be safe and friendly. The concept of a predator expressing trust rather than dominance required significant mental adjustment among species who had evolved different social structures. Most galactic civilizations understood hierarchy and territorial disputes, but the idea of voluntary affection between different species was revolutionary. The creature seeks comfort rather than conquest, Mordex said slowly as Mochi settled into a more comfortable position and increased the volume of its purring. This suggests a fundamentally different approach to interspecies relations, Captain. Hana stepped forward and decided to risk everything on complete honesty about human nature. The galaxy needed to understand what made her species unique, even if that understanding came with risks. Humans do not see other species as threats to be conquered, she said. We see potential friends, family members, and companions. The statement hung in the air as delegates processed its implications. A species that automatically assumed friendly intentions rather than hostile ones would approach galactic politics from a completely different perspective than anyone had previously encountered. This pack bonding trait, Dr. O continued, extends beyond Earth animals to include alien species. He activated another display that showed early human space exploration missions, where crew members had formed attachments to alien life forms encountered during surveys. In every case, humans had attempted communication and cooperation rather than conquest or extermination. We want to be friends, Park Jiho said simply, with everyone. The young officer's statement seemed to crystallize something that had been building throughout the encounter. Humans were not apex predators themselves, but rather a species that formed bonds with apex predators. This made them potentially more dangerous than any conventional military force. A species that befriends predators, Mordex said thoughtfully, would be immune to intimidation and capable of forming alliances across traditional enemy boundaries. Mochi had decided that the tree being made an excellent perch and was now grooming itself while balanced on Mordex's shoulder. The sight of a small predator casually maintaining its weapons while in direct contact with galactic leadership was not lost on the assembled delegates. If humans can convince apex predators to live peacefully in their homes, observed Dr. Catherine, what might they accomplish with species that actually possess intelligence and technology? The question sent a chill through the chamber as delegates realized that humanity's greatest weapon might not be military technology, but rather an unprecedented ability to form emotional bonds with potential enemies. High Chancellor Mordex gently stroked Mochi's orange fur and marveled at how the small predator responded with increased purring. The ancient being had never experienced voluntary affection from a creature capable of inflicting harm, and found the sensation both pleasant and deeply significant. The Galactic Council recognizes humanity as a unique species. Mordex announced, one whose approach to interspecies relations offers unprecedented opportunities for peaceful cooperation. The vote was unanimous, though several delegates still seemed nervous about the implications. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Council, along with a special designation that had never been used before. Earth humans are classified as benevolent pack-bonding predators. Mordex declared, a species capable of forming emotional attachments with any life form, regardless of potential danger. As the session concluded, Mochi had fallen asleep on the Chancellor's shoulder, still purring softly. The small orange cat had single-handedly changed the galaxy's perception of humanity and secured Earth's place among the stars. Captain Hana looked around the chamber at delegates who were already discussing trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. First contact had not gone according to any plan, but somehow Mochi had accomplished more than years of careful diplomacy could have achieved. The future of human-alien relations would be built on the foundation of a house cat's ability to make friends with anyone willing to provide a comfortable perch and perhaps the occasional head scratch.